Welcome out to the field. Today we're in a formal camp spot. We're at the Oregon coast. It is June 4th, 2024. We're going to be going over starting fires. And before we get too much into that, a couple things. I'm going to show you, hopefully, how to get a spark on some tinder and actually keep that fire going. And hopefully I'm going to show you some of the prep work you need to do to make sure that happens. Any class, shouldn't say any, a lot of classes I've been to, a lot of the instructors show you how to use batteries to get your steel wool going, use a spark to get your cotton ball going, use a spark or a small match to get your fire gel going. But they never really show you how to maintain that fire. They also tell you things about going out and getting moss off of trees and pitch off of trees and scrounging up dry wood and so on, and leaves. Well, in Oregon, even today, it is cloudy, it's been raining like crazy, the wind's blowing. You'd be hard-pressed to find anything that didn't have about 50% moisture in it right now. Even dead leaves on the ground aren't going to burn very well or burn hot. So, I personally believe you need to carry with you enough tinder, enough fire starters to keep a fire going for a good 10 minutes or so to get whatever you have dried out and ignited, or yes, ignition going on it. I've also found a couple little tricks. If you're dealing with round stuff, split it. No matter how small, you have a wider burn surface, and of course you can get to whatever may be dry in the middle of it. Long time ago as a kid, I read a story called To Build a Fire. It's a short story by John London. The most popular version was published in 1908. And in essence, the story goes kind of like this. And I'm extremely summarizing. Go out, read it. It's like $6 to order the short story book. Guy up in the far north, greenhorn, is in some sort of establishment, and the old timers in there tell him, do not go out. It is cold. You will freeze to death before you get back to your camp, and so on. This guy knows about enough that when he spits and it supposedly freezes, it's at least minus 20 degrees. He's dressed okay. He's got a dog with him, a few matches in his pocket. They tell him things like avoid walking along the river, be careful because overflow, things like that, you might fall through. And basically tell him, you need to spend the night and ride out the storm here. He blows them off. He thinks he's better than all that. He thinks he knows what he's doing. He gets out there. He steps through the ice along the river, soaks his foot, soaks his leg, gets soaking wet. Now he's got to build a fire. He has almost nothing but matches with him. He, at one point, gets underneath a tree, gets a little fire going, and the tree snow melts off and puts out his fire. He, at one point, gets so desperate that he's going to strangle the dog, but the story's made this guy where he's abused his dog, so the dog won't even come to him. His hands are too cold to do it. Long story short, the man freezes to death. He overestimated his equipment. He overestimated his skills. He overestimated, and he didn't listen to the advice given to him. Those kind of silly things can put us all in an emergency really quick. Dressed like I am today, I am not dressed to go into the backcountry. I have cotton type pants on, synthetic type shirt, t-shirt. If it started pouring on me right now, it's about 56, maybe 57 degrees, winds blowing, depending where you are, probably 10, 15 miles an hour today. We're on the Oregon coast. The roaring you hear in the background is the ocean, and I guess a backup alarm on something out there. We're in, like I said, we're in a formal campground. If it started raining right now, and I was dressed like this, I would be really hurting without a piece of the right equipment with me. Raincoat. I've got a poncho for kneeling on down here at my feet. Even though it's June, it is still cool out here, and if you got wet, you'd be hurting really fast if you couldn't just get into your truck and start it up. So it really doesn't matter most of the year. It's all about the environment. Cool, wet wind causes hypothermia. So we're going to work on getting a fire going today. A couple different fires. We're going to test out some methods, Paul's birthday cake candles, things like that. And we'll see if I can demonstrate some of the things that I think you should go out, test, and try out. Now, before we get to the actual fire building, remember, nothing I say is an endorsement to you must go buy this, you must carry that. These are only my recommendations, things that I have found work for me through my experience in building fires out in the brush or out in the field. A lot of fires built, trying to keep warm on elk stand in the snow, things like that, okay? There are lots and lots of ways, and according to the robot on Lost in Space, 27 ways to skin a cat. There's probably more than that to build fires, okay? Just because you do it differently than I do doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong, doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's whatever works for you. I'm going to show you some things that work for me and a piece of equipment that is not patented that I think everybody should have in their gear. So let me get reset, and we'll get to building some fires. All right, so I'm down on my knees. Hopefully I can stay here a little bit. Today we're going to be testing out this Camp Companion by Hardcore Hammers Hatchet. It's about a 3.5 inch face on it. Came very sharp. Came with this nice leather sheath. It's got a hammer on the backside. I've used it already to split up some of this wood I have. It works really well if you don't want to chop the wood, to take a stick like this and just break it with the hammer. Get my firewood to hold still. Just like that. I've used it on the back of my very cheap, fancy, big-ass knife here today to baton some stuff. I've set up a wall tent with it already, pulled the stakes, pounded in the stakes, which are rebar. I've put it through some tests. I'm not going to do a torture test like you would see on most other YouTube channels that do torture tests on hatchets, etc. I am not going to sit here and beat on the fire ring. I'm not going to go out and try to destroy it, to be quite honest with you. This part right here is not sharp, and I've used it to pull tent stakes with. It worked great for hooking underneath the tent stakes, give you a bigger handle. Obviously, it's I want to say it's about, I'd have to look up the stats to be exact, but I believe it's a 22-inch handle on it. I've been very happy with it. Now, it is not a backpacking hatchet or hammer. If you want something like that, here's a Swedish-made type one that Paul got me years ago. It's obviously smaller, lighter. But for a camp companion, as the name indicates, and these just came out a couple months ago, splitting firewood in camp, setting up your tent, okay, doing all those type of things, it works really well. And I've been very happy with it in just the little bit of time I've owned it and the chores I've done with it. This has got a knot in the bottom side, so we'll see what happens here. Another piece of wood without a giant knot in it. Now, I don't know what kind of wood I have here. I know that it's genuine bought firewood. It's dry. It's most likely some type of fir. Boy, I'm not doing very good there, am I? Hold on. There we go. Do one more. There. All right. Now, later, when we get a big fire going, we'll use some of this stuff. Don't want that piece. Now, while I do this and make a little bit smaller kindling, keep in mind that I'm not going to show you all the bushcrafting, feather sticking type tricks today. Okay? I'm going to show you how to use your giant, really cheap knife that I bought in Depot Bay a couple days ago. And yes, that's dinging on the knife. Okay, but it looked cool, so there we are. This, on the other hand, looks cool, but is a real tool. Of course, I'm on stand today, so that doesn't help anything. And you can baton on the back of the hammer, split your wood too. Problem is that every time I try to split something, it goes buried into the ground. Now, we know when we build fires that various things are going to work, maybe not work. Okay. Paul likes birthday cake candles. I've always used cotton balls, commercial made stuff, etc. Off camera, Paul and I were talking the other day, and he discovered that a birthday cake candle nowadays will burn almost 15 minutes. And the ones I have with me today, I did an experiment last night. One burns a little quicker than the other brand, but they lasted almost 15 minutes. So we're going to see how they last out here in the rain, and well, no rain right now, but the wind, and see where it gets to. You know, I'm just giving me little tiny stuff here. See if our fancy birthday cake candles will actually get a fire going. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the opening, but what we're going to try to do is show how to maintain the fire. So almost every survival school I've been to, the guy shows you how to get a lot of sparks going, and then he puts it out. He doesn't really show you how to maintain that fire. So we're going to try that today. I personally like building a log cabin, putting my tinder in the middle of it, kind of, you know, a square, old log cabin, Lincoln log type stuff. That's what I like. You could do the teepee. The reason I like mine, especially with wet wood, and I'm doing little tiny for now, is that you can build it up almost, you know, if it's big, you can build it up pretty tall. As the heat comes up, it dries out the wood above it, and it folds down in as it burns. It doesn't overlap or fall apart as the teepee style does that I've run into at times. Now, the other problem with that is, though, that if your fire in the middle is too small and your blocks are too big, then it just burns out the bottom before it burns the edges, and you don't have any coals down there. One thing I've found with fires, especially with wetter wood and trying to maintain a fire to keep it going, is that you need wood that will make coals, not just burn out super quick. So yes, you need small stuff, but you also need those coals. Now, in my fancy shirt here, we'll get to this later today, is one of those pole starter fire sticks. Bic lighter. Let's see if I can find the right ones. Aha! And two different types of birthday cake candles. The white one is $4 plus a box. And the yellow one comes from a multicolored box. It's $2 a box. These burned slower last night, but still, like within 30 seconds of burning out. This one had a little bit bigger flame, burned a little bit longer. We're going to see, you know, I got out of the wind pretty good. See if we can get it lit. Now, I don't have a lot of experience with birthday cake candles out in the wild. Paul does. And of course, it went out right away. So, well, let's see if I can put it down here, maybe on a piece of wood. Okay, we got the candle lit. And it went out. Well, now I got my little shavings lit. Of course, again, I'm kind of cheating. I got nothing but super dry wood today. And see, well, you can't really tell. Pop-Tarts are in the way probably. That it's already, the little stuff is burning away from itself, so it's hard to keep, you know, get a bed of coals going there. Now the candle is lit again. All right. So with a little bit of effort and some really good wood, we got some smoke coming up. We got some fire going, and of course I didn't prep it all completely yet, like I normally would, because I just wanted to see if we could get a flame going for a little bit. And you know, like I said, there's a lot of different channels on bushcrafting on how to put your knife into a stump and pull it backwards, get feather sticks lit. If you split it small enough, you can do that same thing. So I do smell my birthday cake candle burning. Yep, see, there it is lit. There goes my fire a little bit. So every once in a while the breeze comes through, works out really well. This kit is out of one of my other survival packs that I have. It's got some of that sol heat in it and so on. It's got orange stuff in there. It's got a ferro rod in here. So it's got 2 or 3 different ways of getting ignition going. So it looks pretty good here. We'll let that burn for just a minute, see if we can keep it going for a little bit. Now, a few people mentioned in our 3-day emergency kit video about a magnifying glass. Now it's June, but I'm pretty sure there's not enough sun up there for me to get a magnifying glass, and this is an awful big piece of equipment. I have tried magnifying glasses, and the only time I've found that they work really well, especially to get just tinder going, is when it is so hot and so much sun that you don't really need to get a fire going. So let me take a break just a minute here, and we'll come back to you. Had to stop and explain to the ranger what I was doing. So as you can see, the fire burned. I let it just kind of burn out because we're going to go on to the next thing. I don't know if it was the birthday cake candle that helped, which I can see the wax now. Birthday cake candles, nice thing nowadays, do not drip wax everywhere. The wax actually burns, so it is a good piece of tinder, I'm sure. In fact, there's a little piece of it in here still, that it would make a really good thing. Of course, any small flame is susceptible to wind. And we're in a really well protected little spot right now. So hopefully we can stay away from the wind. So let me get this, kind of push to the side here. And we'll get the next one set up, and we'll test our next piece of tinder. I mean, or I guess it's not tinder, it's just what you use to get your fire going, right? So if you aren't familiar with what the log cabin style is, let's see if I can set it up here. These pieces I'm putting down are a little bit big. Okay. Again, we're just going to do a small one for now. Man, this is some stringy stuff. Even though it is campfire wood, it is stringy. Okay, we're going to put that in the middle. Here's a little thin one. Put that in the middle. Okay. So we have a fire that'll burn up through the middle here. Okay, we'll put this across here. Again, I'm cheating a little bit because I have really dry wood. Let's see if I can find a little bit smaller piece. Here we go. Of course, you know, a little bit smaller piece. Put that in the center so it burns up through there. A little bit smaller piece. Keep in mind while I do this, if you are out with a hatchet, and you know, I have on the outside of my pack here my tourniquet and trauma gear, just in case you were to slip with your hatchet and slice your finger or anything like that. Okay, and as I do this, I'm trying to leave the middle open. And sometimes I would put the tinder, whatever I want, down in the middle first. I may work on that here in just a minute. So, a lot of people, when we did our 3-day pack stuff, were commenting on, and yes, some of my stuff is old and some of the stuff I like is old, but they were commenting on how my Zippo dries out. And yes, they do. That's why I carry it in my pocket and I maintain it almost every day. Now, here is, I want to say they're from Bigfoot Bushcraft. They're basically your paraffin infused, the little tin is my personal thing. They're basically your paraffin infused cotton. So instead of your cotton balls with wax, Vaseline, something like that, these are commercial made, sort of the same thing, except for their wax. Now what I found with these is that they don't like getting going with just a, sorry, get that down in there, with just a spark when they're compressed. So I'm peeling it apart. Try to get a little bit of it peeled apart here, get it a little fuzzed up, because it comes with a really nice ferro rod, really big ferro rod. And as we're talking about ferro rods, we'll discuss the fact that from my readings and experience and so on, ferro rods are good tools, but they need to be about 1/2 inch diameter to be a good tool, okay? Now, the other thing you could do here is get this lit. I'm going to get the ferro rod out while we talk. Get this lit, and then build the stuff on top of it, because I have experimented with these plugs before and they'll burn about 5 minutes or so before they go out. So that gives you plenty of time to get your stuff on there. Now, if you're not familiar with a ferro rod, so this one is about 1/2 inch diameter, and it comes with a black coating which you need to scrape off to get down to whatever the material is, that when you spark it, it gives you sparks, okay? Now, what I've been told about ferro rods is that the bigger the ferro rod, the more sparks you get. The bigger the sparks, the hotter it is, obviously. I've tried those Boy Scout ones, little tiny, that long, super pencil thin, and if you're lucky enough not to break them, I have struggled and struggled and struggled just to get type pitchwood type stuff, enough heat on even these fine little things. Well, this isn't so fine, but the ones I had before with the match and the candle, trying to get those going, I've struggled for hours, and my back was burnt, and I'm on the ground even worse than this, and it is not good. Now, see if I can do this right. And you notice, so let's see. Oh, there's a spark going, and believe it or not, yep, it's on the cotton ball thing. Now, of course, I blew apart my fire in the process of doing that. So, see if we can get this reorganized. I'm not a fire science major, anything like that, obviously, but we all know that fire burns needs 3 things: oxygen, heat, and fuel. The wood's the fuel, obviously the oxygen out here, and the heat comes from this to begin with, okay? And it is Bigfoot Bushcraft. Comes in a little bag, comes with those. I got offline, I don't know, 20 bucks. I thought it was cool. I thought I'd play with it a little bit. Seems to work. Nice big fire going. I personally like those. Now, are they heavier than birthday cake candles? Yep, they are. Do I have 100 of them? No. I have about 10 in that little tin or metal box there. And that's just a little box to keep from getting all over and so on, that I scrounged up from my wife, okay? Now, again, I could keep this fire going because there's enough heat, and then I've got enough dry stuff today that I could easily put bigger stuff on it, as you know, because again, it's dry. But you would always want to make sure to size it up accordingly, correct? You don't want to put this piece of wood on there now. You don't want to put this piece of wood on there. And you want to make, this is a really nice thin piece, so you might want to put something like this on there. So we'll put a little bit of that on there for now, get a little warmed up. Now notice the wind's blowing back at me. That's okay, now it's blowing back toward you guys. So, there we go. Now, for 5 minutes, this would be a great fire. You need to always remember, get your firewood and everything gathered up before you get started. Because while this burns and I go over here to find more wood, this will almost be out before I get back. This is going to burn really quick. I'm not going to bore you with watching it burn, okay? But I'm just going to tell you, this is probably maybe a 5 or 10 minute fire, and there's some decent, well, not decent size, but stuff to keep it going. Again, yes, I'm cheating a little bit by having super dry firewood, okay? All right. And that started with not just the ferro rod, but the wax plug also. Now, in my pocket is my Zippo lighter. I personally like the Zippo because it's windproof. It doesn't blow out like this little butane. Gives a bigger flame. Yes, I know I need to maintain it. That's why I keep it in my pocket. I don't leave it in my pack. Wouldn't be any good there. Some things that are in your pack that are good, they make these little, they take lighter fluid. They're a little square. They have a little striker on the side of them, a little wicked striker. So, and it's got an O-ring. And I've had those for months on end in a pack. I don't think I have one in here. I'll have to look in my other gear. Not one in this gear. And they cost like $5. And then at one point they were like, oh, you get it for free paying the shipping. It's a really good piece of equipment. It's not quite windproof, but it's a match is what it really turns out to be. It's about the size of a match. And it's a great little match that uses lighter fluid, and it doesn't evaporate because the container has an O-ring. All right, so we'll let this burn down a little bit. And we've all seen the cotton balls. Now, what I have found with, and here's a piece of greased cotton ball in with my storm matches. What I've found with the storm matches is they do light. They won't blow out. You can dip them in water. They're really great things. What I don't like about them is they burn really fast. Now, I'm going to demo one just for you while this burns. There it goes. But you'll see it kind of burns like a road flare. It kind of burns really fast. The wind's blowing like crazy. It's not going to blow out. But when it goes out, it's out. And it was that quick. And it tends to burn away from. So if you put it right in the middle of your tinder, the heat constantly moves. I'm not so sure that it allows the heat to get there. Now, if you're going to light the cotton or another fire starter type thing, one of these SOL fuel cubes, which work great in your little stoves also, then maybe that's what you want to do, and it won't burn out. Correction, it won't blow out before you get down there. But as far as just lighting something, not so sure that's the way to go. So I do like them. You can dip them in water. They're bulletproof for getting started in the rain and snow and so on. The other thing I have in here is the cotton ball and one of those pull start fire, which will break out. The reason it's still in the plastic is the strings you don't want getting accidentally pulled in your pack, obviously. Okay. Now in this pack, I have another fire kit, a little bit different. I carry it in a bag. It's a little felt type bag. In here is another one of those pull start fire things. Another what we call the fire tube. Another one of the saw, a couple of those. Longer UCO stormproof matches, so these will, but they burn the same way. They kind of burn away from your fire. Trioxane heat tabs. Bic lighter for all those that don't think I carry one and don't appreciate them. And some old-fashioned Coghlan style light on the side of the box fire starters. So we haven't played with those a little bit. Now, get these out. Get it kind of prepped. What I have found with these, even though it's supposed to be light on the box, well, I broke this one in half, so it's not, is that you need to feather these to be able to get that match, to get something to grab onto to burn, okay? And then they burn, they give you more burn surface, right? So the reason you feather things is it gives you a bigger burn surface. So in this case, its smaller edge gets going better than this big fat edge. Ranger people didn't like I was borrowing a campsite. So let's put this down here. Now, I have found that these are not real good to get started with your ferro rod. Sorry. It will start with one of those big matches though. So we're going to put that to the test as soon as I get some more wood split up here. Okay. And again, now that's going to burn a good 10 minutes. It's going to be burned pretty hot. And we're cheating a little bit because we got this really good dry firewood again. So I'm not going to make it quite as small as if I was trying to get it going with just my lighter and my candle like I did the very first attempt there. Okay, now again, you can't, maybe I want to set this to the side, get that lit. I'll have some time then to put this here, but I definitely want my material ready to go. Fire in the, you can use it to boil your water, right? So in the kind of survival disaster world, it's also comforting. It also gives your kids something to do, not play in the fire, but maybe help go get the firewood, right? It gives you something to do. And there's a psychological comfort to having that warmth and having done something. So it's very important that you are able to get this done and not to get my catchphrase out there too soon in the day. Excuse me. But remember, you always need to get out and practice with what you carry and what you are going to use. So here's one of the long-term, great big, almost like a road flare matches. Oh, well, before we get to this one, I got in my magic pocket here some little bitty strike anywhere matches. Now I'm going to strike it on the box, but it says right here, strikes anywhere match 32 count. Lightweight. Get your candle going. Let's see if I can get it going down here. Let's move that to the side. This is burning a lot better than I thought it would, to be quite honest with you. A lot longer. Got my fire stick thing going there. Well, just put the extra wood in there. Oh, move that over. Move that over. Start building up the fire. You don't want to put it out. Remember, it needs oxygen, so it needs to breathe. Most of what you see burning right now is the fire starter itself. Now, that was one match. I'm a little shocked at how well it did, to be quite honest with you. Big gust coming along. We'll go use the wind to our advantage to blow it. Now, see, that gust of wind blew out my match. Put this back in our magic pocket here. Maybe for just complete giggles, we'll put a candle on there to add a little fuel to it. All right. Now, you see this candle sitting here. You could, I don't know, pull it apart, put it in the fire, see how it burns. I haven't tested this one. It's a little big, a little heavy. I like Paul's idea of the birthday cake candles. Here comes a really big gust of wind, a little bit of moisture with it. You can tell by the fire. So I'm not so sure it's the best, slickest thing. That birthday cake just added some fuel to it. That's fine. Birthday cake candle. Birthday cake candle. Everybody laugh at how I can't talk. All right. Now, pretty confident I could keep building this up. Again, super easy dry wood today. Keeping a fire going. The key to it is getting enough wood down there for coals. Things that, I mean, and building it up. So I'm just doing little fires right now because obviously I'm not camping here. I'm not staying here. And so if you can get a fire like this going and build it up better, but you need a bed of coals that is really hot, that stays in one place so it can continue to warm up, dry out that other wood. Again, it seems like no matter what time of year, if you need a fire in the Northwest, you're going to find wet wood, right? It's just going to be damp. Trying to get to the middle of it may be better. Again, split it so that you have more edges. Obviously, a piece of wood like this has a lot more fire edge to burn than a round piece. If you pictured your finger, not you want to split your finger, but on edge you have just this burning, and if you split this in two, you'd have the whole width burning. Okay, so split your wood if you can. Here's a bigger chunk. Pretty sure that I'd keep going. So, you know, I could sit here and work my way up, and we could have some nicer firewood. Okay, now while we do that, let's poke that in the ground. Take our camp companion again. Take a bigger chunk of wood because I don't want to keeps going in the ground. Got to put it on a piece of wood over here. It's not the axe, trust me. There we go. Ground's all sand. I got to find a good base for it. All right. Please don't yell at me too much about my hatchet skills. Try to do it safe. Try to keep my fingers all intact. All right, so there's another fire. Let's move this one out of the way. And we'll, I think we're down to one last fire. So again, start small, know your equipment. All right, the aluminum foil is just there. That's some of that candle burning. Okay, aluminum foil is just there, so it stays up out of the pit and we can see it better on camera. All right, so as that, oh, that's part of my go faster match. Now this last thing, we're going to open it up here, get my Leatherman I carry, everyday carry again, Leatherman tool. Again, it's the Leatherman Wingman. Showed that off in the 3-day pack thing. All right, so put the plastic in our pocket so we don't burn that and harm the environment. Says right on here, fastest way, solution. Okay. Instructions on it. Loop the green string over a log to secure. Build a structure of logs. Pull the red string quick and hard to start. Okay, well, I don't really want to build a whole structure of logs, but we'll do that. Now, you may have seen this purple looking wax. I took a big candle from the house and I shaved it all down. We know wax burns, right? We like it. Let's see, even though I'm not starting it with a spark, what kind of reaction we get. Now, egg crate does burn. If I melted this, well, if I melted the wax and poured it in the egg crate, it would be a really good homemade fire starter. For those that don't want to go spend the money on this kind of thing, or, sorry, this SOL type thing, which is labeled as a Firelight Fuel Cubes. All right, so if you don't and you need to, you have a bunch of candles and you know that wax will burn, get some egg crates or, you know, egg cartons is what I'm trying to say. Melt the wax, not in your wife's favorite pot because it probably won't ever come clean again. Pour it on there. The wax soaks into this egg crate. Now, I like using what my father-in-law taught me was pitch stump, which is over in Eastern Oregon, very dry, very gray, hard as a rock, pure solidified pitch. You take the chainsaw, you cut it, pieces out of it. Anyway, take the chainsaw scraps, put it in the wax also. I have been able to get those with a ferro rod started. So it works really good as a homemade fire starter. Good project for the kids. Now, Boy Scouts used to say dryer lint. Well, a lot of our clothes are synthetics. They're not cotton, which is what used to be in the dryer lint. So if you find some other combustible type thing to put in with your wax carton, right, that works really well. that's where one of these nice big matches would come into play. So let's see. Let's take another section. Use the fancy big match. Again, I kind of shortcut, I'm sorry. Didn't have a way of melting it today. Get our match started here. Come on, there we go. Put this over here. And see what I was talking about, the match burn away from where you're trying to light stuff. So we're just going to set that underneath. Now, egg crate is not, especially dry, cardboard, paper sacks, things like that are not the easiest to get going. You'd think a paper sack, old-fashioned grocery bag, would burn well, but just quite heavy enough to not burn well. Perfume TP, paper towels, newspaper, if anybody ever knows what newspaper is anymore, newspaper works well. Or making your tinder super small, making all this, taking that minute like I started, shaving this off, right? Even with this giant kind of play around match, or sorry, knife, you can shave some stuff down there, okay? Get some good shavings, get your little bitty kindling going with your cotton ball, with your homemade fire starter, with your commercial bought fire starter. Anything that will get going really easy with a match or a spark, okay, is you can use. Now, a lot of people said leather gloves in our packs. Right here would be a good reason to put leather gloves in. And to show that I'm not a complete idiot, I'm pretty sure I have a pair of gloves with me today. Look at that. Now, I prefer Air Force or military, whatever, but I learned about them in the Air Force. Nomex flight gloves. Now, if you don't know what Nomex is, it's pretty much a fireproof material. Leather palm, goat skin. See, I've used them before. I've taken a lighter to them and tried to melt them and burn them. They don't. So, like fireworking stuff, lightweight, good. Keep your hands warm or dry or wetter. Won't get slivers in your hands. So as you're doing this, it is a cheap, it only cost me like 70 bucks for this giant knife. So I knew it was cheap, but it's okay. It looks cool. But it makes sticks like this. Doesn't pull it out of your hand. Has a little finger notch there. All right. Now this is burned. All right. All right, so small, easy pieces, remember. You can do with that a lot of different ways. Smaller knife probably worked better. Okay, see? Even that started to burn off of this one. So, we got that there. Now, I don't recommend ever trying to take a piece of wood like this and use, start your fire, but supposedly that's what it'll work for. So I'm going to take one like this today. Couple pieces like that. All right, gonna get a little bit of a fire, a little better demonstration what I call a log cabin. This is the big version, obviously, guys. You'd want to start at the bottom, work your way up, okay, and do something like this. Now we're just gonna use the wood we have. All right, of course, gloves make everything more difficult. Can't feel your fingers as well, and so on. Now, get my magnifying glass out of the way. I'm going to have to move my fire over, but instead of tying it to a log, because what I've found in using these in the past, when you tie it to a log and you pull sharply, you knock over your whole fire. Or you pull the log out and not the pull start thing, okay? So, we're going to tie it to the grate. I'm going to put it here where we can get to it. Going to run our string out here, okay, and we're going to put it kind of in the middle of our log cabin. Real life, almost like Paul's Thanksgiving video without the fun. Speaking of, I do have plans to try to get us out Thanksgiving video if Paul isn't able to this year. It will be different. I don't have his skills in the Dutch oven world, but I'm going to, one of the things on the menu is a homemade giant Pop-Tart in the Dutch oven. So, hang in there with us. We all know, we all love Paul. Paul's great. And trust me, guys, nobody wants him to be healthy and come back more than I do. So, all right. Now, this should burn for 30 minutes. Should be the coup de grace of, and I'm going to hold down here just so I can pull this. And it pops, and it smokes, and it starts flaming right away. And that will on its own burn for 30 minutes. Now, it's a little big, so I'm going to move my gear out just a little bit. While that gets going and we have our finish here, I can't say enough nice about this hardcore hammer hatchet. For the camp companion, it works great. I waited a long time for them to make a hatchet that did not have a nail puller here. This is a tent stake puller. Smoke got to me. And like I said, the hammer, as far as, you know, I wouldn't use it on cheap knives because it put dings in this one, but you know, most of my other K-bar knives and other ones I would definitely use it on. I've used it on, like I said earlier, rebar stakes. It worked great for that. I really can't say enough nice. It comes unfinished in the handle. So for those that want to put boiled linseed oil, go to those sites that really tell you how to take care of tool handles. Wrangler Star, I believe, is a great one to go to. Anyway, I did that. I treated the handle. It comes with a nice sheath. It's so sharp on the point here that it came through the sheath. I emailed them. They had me one coming within a day. So I'm really happy with the customer service they gave out too. Like I said, it works nice if you needed to, make your own splint, whatever. I should, not splint, wedge. Okay. There you go. Again, we're on sand, so most of my energy's going into the ground. It's not the hatchet. There you go. All right, so our fire's burning. You can see that it's coming up through there. The wood is starting to go. I can hear it. Maybe I'll shut up for a minute, let you listen. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that this is kind of a cheating way to do things. Now, I carry one because if you're freezing and your hands are shaking and you just don't have the time to take... All right, sorry about that. Battery died on me. So this is what it is. And I was always saying, if you don't have the dexterity in your cold hands, you don't have the time to split all this, you don't have the right equipment with you for whatever reason. And yes, it's warm. These kind of emergency fire starter type, or just in your campground, are great tools. It takes nothing, and I've tried with what wood we've gathered up, so I have experimented with it other than here. You can get them online, and here you go. Okay, so I apologize for having a decent video going and then battery dying on me and us doing a jump cut. That's not our normal style. With that, get out, practice, experiment with your equipment, with ideas you have. Do it in the safe environments like this campground so that you can always be the best prepared for the worst case situations.